Pottering around the countryside in something like this 1938 Morgan 4.4 Flatrad wasn't unusual in the past. Skinny tyres and a lack of weight made it relatively easy to tackle a little off-piste driving. Many even took it a stage further, taking part in competition trials. Now Morgan has decided to head back off-road, and in no uncertain terms.
Things I never thought I'd do in a Morgan. That's insane. That really is every bit as steep as it looks.
This is the Morgan CXT, and it's not a prop from a new Jurassic Park film. Morgan is actually going to build and sell some of these. Here to explain more about it is John Wells, Morgan's head of design.
This is extraordinary, isn't it? I mean, it looks like one of those sort of Instagram renders brought to life. How did it start? How did this come about?
Well, it is a bit of a dream come true, I must say. I mean, something the team and I at Morgan in the design studio have fantasised about for years was harking back a little bit to Morgan's history of endurance trialling and bouncing these things around field and off-road. There's quite a good bit of legitimate archive history there. So we've drawn these things periodically, but it wasn't until a few years ago when we embarked on the CX platform project, the new aluminium platform. We thought, how can we really bring attention to the underpinnings when the car looks visually, similar? So we drew a few bits and pieces, and we had a sketch on the wall in the studio. And recently, one of our investors came round and visited, and he and the CEO walked into our office and went, "Oh wow, that's cool. We should build it." And sort of walked off, and we all looked at each other and went, "Do you think he's serious?" And then before we knew it, we were meeting up on a Saturday morning with some Dakar experts, an amazing outfit called Rally Raid UK, and they were sat in our studio and we were talking around the sketches. We had our investors there and our CEO, and we just decided to do it. There was no focus groups, no big validation committees. We just thought.
So it wasn't the case that you sort of thought, right, Morgan has to do an SUV, and this is what you ended up with. It was
absolutely not, and that's not a word we associate even remotely with this. This was about, I don't know, Morgan cars are very much about an experience, right? It's about doing something different, having great fun doing it. And I think, especially at the moment, that sense of people wanting adventure and experience, that's what this is focused on. It's not a competition race car. It's not going to do the Dakar Rally, but it is a legitimate adventure vehicle. And it is designed to perform as well. And that's where Rally Raid came into play.
Yeah. Right, let's get on to some of the specifics about this. Shall we just start from the front and work through to the rear? So I suppose the easiest thing is to say what still exists from a Plus 4.
Okay, so outwardly the nose cone is untouched, and so are the doors. Otherwise, we've touched everything on the bodywork. Underneath the car, it's probably a good place to start at the front. It's based on our Plus 4, so it's a B48 BMW engine, manual gearbox, 2 litre. It's a turbocharged engine. It's exactly the same as we use in our road-going Plus 4. Yeah. And that lives within the CX platform, which is our aluminium bonded riveted platform.
We should say that it's not a typo. It's not, because some people might think, well, it should be XC, cross country and all that. No, it's CX. No, the CX, sort of 110 years kind of platform.
It's marketing spiel, Roman numeral play on 100 years.
And the T stands for
110, and the T stands for trialing. So that's the hark back to the trialing. The trialing play. 110 years of Morgan trialing. So that's the CXT platform, and that has been pretty well untouched, and that's quite important for us. We wanted to show what the thing can do, but then that's when it all starts changing a little bit. So in the corners, we borrowed the wishbones from a Plus 6, the wider body car, to give us that extra articulation. That's on XTC dampers, proper setup underneath, so it does its job when it gets rough.
And I think that was one of the things that gave me confidence. You know this is genuine when you hear what dampers are on it, because I mean, XTC, it's nice, they're a nice British company anyway, but they've been used in WRC and stuff like that for years. They are proper things, aren't they?
And Rally Raid, you know, they've built 50, 60 back-art cars and amazing success at getting vehicles across the line. They know what they're doing. They presented options to us, and it was kind of a case of, well, you could have this, but what you really want is this. And
spend your money on the dampers. If you're going to spend it on anything.
That was the focus.
Yeah.
But we didn't make it too easy for them. What we were, especially in the design team, myself and my colleagues especially, were really adamant we didn't want to grow the car. We didn't want to make a Morgan monster truck. Morgan's quite a USP actually at the moment is that we still build sweet little British sports cars. They're narrow and they're slight and they're light, and we didn't want to lose that identity, so we wouldn't budge a millimetre on the track. So this car is still the same footprint as a Plus 4, and that was really important to us. And actually we used the opportunity to get a few things across the line. So it's a nightmare for the fabricators welding these headlight pods on, but we just wanted them a bit closer together, just to pinch that nose a little bit. So it's definitely a small British car. But then you can see on the front, we have protected it.
Yeah.
So there's a big 6mm steel under tray on the front of the car. We did a shakedown here in this quarry a couple of months ago, and I'd never sat in this before, and there's a chap at Rally Raid, guy called Beady, really experienced driver, took me out, and I'm not a nervous passenger, but I was sat in there like, I don't need to be here, I've got kids, you know, this is scary. But there was at one point, he took us off the edge of this flipping cliff, and there's a boulder there, 16-inch across, and I went, you know, that's game over, it's been fun, see you later guys, and it just exploded and the car carried on. So, yeah. All the business at the front end for that.
Yeah.
Lots of little touches you'll see on the cooling, so really worked out the under air management. The idea is these can go and do a classic Rally Raid in sort of Morocco or something in the deserts, and inside getting the airflow right was key.
So we've got these.
That's it, extra intakes, build up some pressure on the lower part of the radiator. It's split inside, you can see behind the mesh to send more over the bonnet, and you'll notice at the back the bonnet's lifted an inch just to manage some of that air out. Each bonnet, as you know, at Morgan is entirely handmade to fit, so our craftsmen are hand beating the panels in a slightly different orientation around the bonnet area, and even the louvers are laid out slightly differently.
And we've got some sort of like saddlebags on each side. That one is
so
for storage. This one isn't.
Well, this is your towing extraction equipment.
Yeah.
This is your snatch ropes and things. And that side, that's actually a big desert spec air filter. It's got sort of easily to stow away replaceable cartridges you can take inside the vehicle, but I mean the Rally Raid guys will tell you more about it. But essentially I think you can be under the sand and it still breathes. Yeah. So that's extra air filter capacity on the outside. And then wheel arches completely cut out, so you can see they're much more open now to allow for the articulation on the travel there.
Are the owls of any significance?
So the owl is a little bit of a. This is actually widely unknown. I don't think we've ever talked about the owl.
Okay.
You could call it our cloverleaf. It's our insignia that it represents. This is a car that's come from the design team. You would never see this on a production car. You'd probably not see it on a customer's car. This is a car that's special to us. And at Morgan, we have a largely unknown mascot. There's an owl that's lived above the PDI bay where customers come to collect their cars, a stuffed owl. And he's lived there forever. No one really knows where he came from. He's a bit of a mythical Morgan creature. And he looks over all the cars. You know, he's almost the overseer. Yeah. And we just thought it was a really nice representation of, essentially he lives there to stop pigeons coming in and, opening themselves up on top of the bonnet. So, the owl is there as a bit of a protecting mascot to Morgan, and for us it's, it's the mark of approval on a Morgan designed car.
Excellent. Oh, that's really nice. Lights, spot lamps up here. Yeah, big spot lamps.
What's been super cool here is we're approaching the car from an aesthetic design Morgan point of view. Rally Raid are approaching it purely from function. Every little detail's been considered. Spotlights, driving them on the road, people may consider that you shouldn't have them, you could get pulled over, so they've got the covers on them. Mm-hmm. You don't want these covers hanging around in the car, so we replaced the plastic covers for upholstered covers made out of nice leather. A little stowaway bag here to store them all. Little details like that make all the difference. On the top, your side screens, as you know on a Morgan, can be removed. We've got the extra replicated fixings, so we can lock them into place on top. Moving rearward, you can see the shovels, the sand tracks, the pelly cases, everything's got a well-designed place. Yeah. After 10 days of driving across a desert, the last thing you want to do is faffing around with boxes and storage, and it's about just making the adventure easy and sort of organised.
Yeah, and then obviously this T45
Yep, big T45 external cage. This drops through the new composite hardtop to hit an internal cage. It's not an FIA approved race cage, it's just adding safety, but also somewhere to hold everything and just strength.
And it looks cool.
And super useful. I mean, some of the clients that are investing in these cars, they want mountain bike racks on the top. One guy's taking his paddle boards and surfboards and things, and you know, it's all about that adventure. So you've got this big setup ready for accessories.
Am I right? One guy's as well got mounting points to lift it onto a boat
That's
and
right,
stuff like
that's
that.
right. There's some lifting points to load it onto a yacht and move it around the world to have trips and adventures.
And then as we move down here, obviously the stuff we have got at the back, we've got these pelly cases in here.
That's right. So in terms of the equipment and things, a couple of pelly cases. Say you were on a trip, you know, you've got limited access to what you can get. Everything needs to be easily pulled out, so these just slide out sideways. If we were to do an expedition with clients, you know, they may even have luggage waiting at the hotel. But the idea here is that you've got enough stuff to sort of get you to the hotel and be well prepared. There's a toolbox here that won't repair everything on the car, but everything that will stop you finishing your journey can be fixed with what's in this box. Really nicely curated and packaged. A couple of rotor packs here, fuel, water, and obviously spare tyres, jacks, and the wheel bars and things. These are really cool little military grade sandboards, just to sort of climb out of everything.
Yeah, they are incredibly grippy, aren't they? That's you should point out that the exhaust side exit is not just because it's cool, it's obviously there functionally as well, because, well, it gives greater ground clearance, and I think sort of if you're reversing out of stuff as well, you don't want the exhaust pointing backwards.
That's exactly right. You know, our first sketch had them on the rear. The Rally Raid guys are telling us they need to be on the side and take exhaust pipes off going backwards, and not a logic in that.
Yeah. Price?
So there'll be 7 of these, 7 client cars. It's hard to say how much they are. Everyone's a bit different. Some have got bike racks, some have got surfboards, like I say, lots of slightly different configurations, but you know, you could say 170,000 before the tax.
Which, yeah,
pretty much where these are positioned, but you can almost do the maths as you walk around with the pelly cases and the bits and pieces, and it sort of does make sense, we think, as a value proposition.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think the thing that I really like is that from all the bits on it, you just look at it and think, I want to go on an adventure in it. It is that sort of ethos about it. So,
no, that's exactly right. That's pretty much squarely where we're aiming it. So,
right, time to go on an adventure in Wales then.
The CXT is road registered, of course, but for today we're sticking to this varied and frankly fabulous off-road playground, which is hidden in the hills of North Wales. Although, if you squint a bit,
this almost could be Africa somehow, all the bleached grass. Just in case you weren't aware, I haven't actually aged 20 years over the space of a few minutes. It is just very dusty here today, and obviously we haven't got the sides on, so yeah, I have that explorer look, I think. Rather like it. It's the sort of Moss Jenks end of the Mille Miglia look. I've always fancied that rather. This has been designed so actually you can take this composite roof off and go completely al fresco. So because this is a standard plus 4 under the bonnet, we've got 255 brake horsepower, 258 pounds for the torque. And you can do skids very easily on gravel. I like the fact you can hear it breathing through that intake over there. A bit of Darth Vader going on. It obviously weighs a little bit more, so it's just over 1,200 kilos. I think this is opposed to nearer 1,000 for the standard car because of all the kit we've got on the back. But it still dances around. We've got 125 mil of travel, which is not a huge amount, but I love it through here. We've got the rock on the inside, so it's definitely feels still very connected to the road. There is only so much that it will cope with, and you have to measure your speed in places, but that's I kind of like that. It makes it a bit more of a challenge. You're not just going to drive straight over everything. The important thing is it feels tough enough to take the hits when they come. Obviously, one of the reasons for Morgan building this is to show their reliability, because, well, perhaps you might have ideas about exactly what sort of reliability they have, but this hasn't missed a beat all day. It certainly rattles and thonks a bit, but it's all stayed together. It's actually got a really nice balance to it. I feel happier sliding this around than the road version, to be honest. The fact that this has been developed with a proper Dakar outfit means that they've thought of all sorts of little things. So we didn't really talk about the interior of this, but obviously a lot of it is just normal Morgan. A lot of these dials and things you would find in a Plus 4, but we've got a phone mount there, a little sort of tucking away for all the cables in there. We've also got the light for map reading when you're going along. 2 switches here, so they're both turned to the left. Then you've got road mode, the left one to the right, that's your off-road mode, so you've got about sort of 40% locking on that rear diff. And then you can turn the right one to the right, you lock the diff completely, so if you need to extricate yourself from sand, if you've got the sandboards out, stuff like that. But it's other little things, so it's not just the mechanics that you're thinking about, it's the fact that, well, we've got obviously the first aid kit back there, and then you've got your food pouches down here, which have got that sort of silvery lining to them, so they're like cool pouches, I suppose, and they're easily accessible, so you can get to them as you're going along. Equally, you've got the navigator's sort of thing in there, so all your document pouch, which is removable, so if you're going through borders and stuff, keep that with you. Things like that they've really thought about. This is been designed to be used. It's not just a styling exercise or just a simple plaything. You can really see that they want people to go and have adventures in these. I hope they do. I know they're only building 7 customer cars, but I sort of hope they find a way to build some more, make it more of a production car, because I think more people really would enjoy this. It's a bit like people discovering gravel riding from road bikes. I think there's just a real appetite for that sort of thing, that sense of adventure, going off the beaten track.
After all, Ariel certainly seems to have made the business case work for its Nomad, and the internet went wild for Singer's ACS, the Dakar-style 911. As for where you'd ever use it, well, Morgan is planning to organise trips to Morocco for the owners of the CXTs, and I've always fancied the idea of exploring the Strada Bianchi in Italy. Perhaps a jaunt from Peking to Paris could be attempted, or maybe you'll just enjoy confidently being able to use the overflow parking in a field.
The CXT, reaching parts that other Morgans cannot reach. Oh, you feel those dampers start to work as you get up more speed. It's got pretty good balance too, because you look at it and all that weight out the rear, you think, oh, how's that going to feel? But you can slide it around pretty well. You obviously are still going to be patient to get that long nose into the corner, but it's pretty good. Well done, little car. And that's one of the things about this. You sort of form an affinity with it, a bond with it, because it's doing things that shouldn't be possible. It's the little car that can.
It is, of course, a lot of money, but I like the fact that it didn't just remain as a pipe dream on a piece of paper on a design office wall. What's more, I rather hope that at least some of the learnings from the CXT's development might trickle down to other Morgans in the future. And maybe, if people like this, a slightly more affordable version might one day make it to the regular lineup. Here's hoping, because, like the bonkers three-wheeler, the CXT makes the automotive landscape a better, more fun place just for existing.